Hello guys, so today we are going to install Fedora CoreOS, that is the latest version 42 on VirtualBox using the ignition file. So before that we need to download this ISO file from this link, Fedora CoreOS download page. Go to this bare metal section. You can select x86, that is the default one, go to bare metal. And here the first one, that is the live DVD, and you can download the file from here. Okay, so since I already downloaded this file and kept it in my local directory Fedora CoreOS 42, the size is around 800 MB, then we can proceed to install this Fedora CoreOS and the local virtual machines. So in my case I am using virtual machine VirtualBox. So let me create one new virtual machine, new Fedora, or you can mention FS 42. Then you can mention your configuration where, the virtual machine configuration where to store. In my case, I created one directory. Yeah, so the type is Linux, variant 64-bit, and you can allocate the hardware. Like 4 GB is fine, 2 CPU, 1 CPU also fine, no issue. And you can mention 40 GB as a hard disk. Yeah, so after that we can allocate two network interface. The first one is the NAT network, which is used for the internet connection, and the second one is the host only interface. So basically we are remotely logging to the virtual machine using SSH. We can assign one static IP to the second interface. So let me create two interface. First one is the NAT network. Allow. And this second interface is host only, allow. We have created this one and we can attach the ISO file here. Otherwise, once we boot that, automatically it will attach the ISO file. No issue. In the system, the first is the optical drive. From there it will boot. Okay, then we can start this virtual machine and attach the ISO file. It will ask to attach the ISO file. Yeah, now it is asking to attach the ISO file. Since I selected this one, then mount. Yeah, now it's booted from the ISO file. So it will take some time to come up that console. Okay, so before that we need some of the configuration to generate, because CoreOS using ignition file as the configuration file during the installation procedure. So for that we need like some of the temporary server where we can generate the the ignition file from your YAML file. So all the configuration you can place in some YAML file. In my case, I place in the base config.yaml file. Let me open. So for that I need some third temporary server. So I switched on this temporary server, that is the one Ubuntu server. I already log into that server, and the IP of that server is there. Press it. You can see the IP of that server is 26. So we can generate the ignition file on this server. Okay, using some of the commands are there. Docker commands are there. You can see in the step number some Docker command is there. But before that we need to create the YAML configuration file. Okay, since I already created that file, let's config.yaml. It has different section. One is user section are there, one is storage, and one is for network section. Okay, so in the first section we can configure one core user and without any password, since we are using SSH public key to log into that system. So I added my SSH public key here. If you want to add the second SSH public key from other host, then you can add the same here. Okay. Then you can configure your new VM, that is the etc host content, etc host name contents, that is the VM name. Then this one is the important, that is we want to configure the second interface as static interface, so that I will assign one IP address here. Okay, so our CoreOS VM IP address should be like 31. So since I created this YAML file before this, so we can generate the ignition file from this YAML file. Let me create that using this command. Hopefully you need this, Docker should be installed before that. Okay, so I created this file, and you can see I use this Docker command, and this is the Docker base image and your input file, and this is the output generated file, ignition file. Hit enter. Now we can see one ignition file is generated. We can copy this ignition file to some directory so that we can download this file. Okay. Okay, so now come to this console. Yeah, here we need to execute some command to copy that ignition file from that temporary server to the CoreOS. Okay, because this CoreOS need this ignition file during installation. So for that we can use this scp command. Let me minimize this, yeah, so that it is easy to type. This lab. So scp root your temporary server, that is 192.168.56.26, and we cooperate that ignition file to root directory sconfig dot ignition ign. We need to copy from that remote directory to this CoreOS local directory, current directory. Dot large sum of the fingerprint, yes, and ask for the password. You can put the password of the remote server. It should download that file. You can check this one, ls-l. So now we are proceed to install this one using step number 9. You can see here, using this command we can start the installation. Sudo CoreOS installer, install your device path SPA and your input configuration file, this ignition file. Okay, so we can hit enter. Hopefully it will start the installation. Yeah, it started. It's a little bit slow, like 10% completed. Yeah, so during that installation, we can cover some of the points. Like when you're creating this YAML file, that is the, let me show you that one. Yeah, this config.yaml. Yeah, during when you create this YAML file, so basically when you configure that user, that is the core user, because once the installation is completed, then we can log into that machine using the core user as the username and the password. We do not need this password. Instead, we can use this SSS public key. Okay, so how to generate this SSS public key? SSH hyphen region. Since I already generated this file and pasted here. Okay, so I'll just show you how to generate hyphen t rs. So just hit enter, then it will generate some of the public and private key. So in my case, it is generated. Usually it is generated in this directory. Okay, .sss. Yeah, you can see this file should be generated. IT underscore RSA public. Okay, you can open this file and paste the contents right here in the YAML file. Similarly, if you add another host from there, you want to log in, you can add the SSS public key of that host. In my case, I am going to use from this machine as a host, also from the Windows machine. So from the Booty, I generated this public key so that I can log in from my Booty also. Okay. And this is the IP you are going to assign to that new Fedora CoreOS. Yeah, it's almost 60, almost 75, 70% completed. We can wait a few minutes. Once the installation is completed, then we will log into that system. Okay, using SSS. Okay. Yeah. So for that, since I already since I am going to assign some of the IP like 31, I think. Let me check this configuration YAML file. Yeah, so the new VM IP is like 31. Okay, so we can add that IP to our local host file etc host file. Yeah, since I already added that one, you can add like this one IP address, then any name or any alias. So I created two alias like F plus 42 or something and save that one. So that later we directly log in using like SSH or at your host name. Okay. So we can wait for the installation to be completed. Yeah, you can see now 90% almost completed. Yeah, 10% remaining. I'm not sure why it's taking this much time, but I noticed it will take around 2 to 3 minutes max. The other applications are running in my system right now, so that's why it's taking some time. Yeah, it's almost going to complete. Yeah, once. Yeah, now we can see the message is showing like install complete. So in this point, you can shut down this machine and data your ISO file right now. Okay, so you can shut down this machine. Shut down now, sudo shut down now, and then you can detach this ISO from the VirtualBox. It will take time to shut down. So it is shut down. I think 1 second. Yeah, we can see the still the ISO is attached to this storage section. Okay, so we need to detach this one, otherwise it will AN boot from the ISO file. We can shut down this one. It's some error is coming. I think I don't know, but it should shut down right now. We can wait. Some of the service error is going to be shut down. Now it's shut down. So now we can detach this storage. Okay. Click on here and this icon is there. Here remove the disk from virtual drive. Okay. Now it should be empty. The first one, not this one. This is the your hard disk. Okay. Don't touch this one. The first one ID. Now you can see the optical drive should be empty. Now we can start so that it will boot from the installed drive. Now it is booting up. Let's see whether it's boot up or not. Yeah, now it's coming. Now you can see the latest version 42 is showing, CoreOS 42, and this is very fast to boot off because this is the immutable operating system. Now we should see this IP address in the second interface, that is .31. Yeah, now in the console you can see two IP addresses are there. One is the ENP P0S3, that is the provided by the DSCP NAT network, and under that one IP is there, an interface there S80, that is the IP is 31, which we configured in the ignition file. So instead of login from this prompt, we can directly SSH to this machine. So here is my another machine, like as we used this machine for the to generate the ignition file. This is a temporary machine. So from here SSH core@, you can mention the IP address or the host name. Since I added it to the etc host file, you can double check that one, etc hosts. Yeah, so I added that IP, that is the new IP, to this machine, that is fcos42. So we can directly take this name core, since we created the core user core@fcos42. I think I already previously accessed this one. Wait 1 second. SSH core@. Let me try it again. Yeah. Since I used this previously, so that's why some of the keys added there. Then you can try yes. So now you can see I log into that new VM, that is the fcos42. You can check host name. This one is assigned in the YAML file, and the IP address also you can check. You can see the, as you are using two interface, the first one you get the internet connection, and the second one we have assigned 31. Now you can see this one assigned to second interface. Also you can check OS release. Now you can see 42 is there. This is the latest version. Okay, so this one we have installed. So in this way, you can check to install, I mean, the remotely log into that system. Also from the PuTTY itself, you can try. Let me try that one. Port address 192.168.56.31. So I can put some name like port game1, save this one, and since we are using the SSH public key, so I need to provide the private key under SSH auth, or somewhere I forgot that one. Yeah, under the connection, logical name or somewhere I forgot that one. Host key, I think, is that one or some. I think the host key. R key, you need to specify host key. No, I think where that one, this connection, SSH, I think. Anyway, we already log in from that any remote server, it is fine. So I will check that one from PuTTY how to log in this one. So this is the document. I'll share this document in the description. Thank you guys. Thanks.